All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Y'all already know what it is. Welcome back to KMF Radio. We are here. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022, and we are here with Mr. Disney himself. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for RogersBase.
What is up, everybody? Hello, welcome. I happily accept the title of Mr. Disney. I think that's great.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, Mr. Disney. Yes, without the apparent anti-Semitism.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
We need apparent, absolutely without.
Yes, like the blatant, the outward, the performative anti-Semitism.
It is honestly wild too, watching a lot of those old Disney cartoons and being like, what the heck? Why did they put these in there? Yeah.
Yes, bro.
There's a lot of those old cartoons that did not age well. Did you know?
Daffy Duck is a Nazi in half of them. Or not Daffy.
I was gonna say the Daffy Duck one. Those are all Warner Brothers.
Yeah, the Donald Duck one, where he's wake up and he's trying to fight Nazis and he's an American soldier.
You know, a lot of those old Disney cartoons though, they're available on Disney Plus. You can go watch them, but they have a little thing beforehand now that warns you where it's these were of a different time. Please,
really
do not think that this represents the Walt Disney Company. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh my God.
If you look up Aristocats, the movie The Aristocats, which you would think is not a problem at all. If you go on Disney Plus and look up The Aristocats, there's one of those warnings in there because during the portion in which they're playing Everybody Likes to Dance or Every Cat Likes to Dance or whatever that musical number,
right?
There is a very, very, very harmful stereotype of a Siamese cat playing with chopsticks, and every word out of his mouth is some variation of Egg Foo Young.
Yes,
and it has not aged well at all,
bro. Disney, Disney property, if you think about it,
the old stuff is very out of pocket.
It is so wild.
Yeah,
it is so. It is the thing. You could just be racist in public so often.
Wild.
So often. I took one class in college called the History of Animation, and yes, it is as nonsensical and as bullshit as it sounds. And and so we were watching these old Disney, and we were talking about it and talking about historical blah blah blah. And then we played this game for 3 hours, a 3-hour class once a week, where we watched 10 old Disney cartoons, shorts. And we had to count the number of swastikas that were in these episodes.
There's a lot of them.
There were high 50s.
I think the thing at the time, too, is they were making a lot of those old cartoons as World War II propaganda, obviously.
Yeah.
To let's go kill a bunch of Nazis. That was originally what they were for, obviously. And so they needed villains in them. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of them. I think there's definitely more than 2, if I'm remembering correctly, where, Donald is a Nazi. And then he goes through this dream sequence where, he works for Hitler. And at the end of it, he wakes up and is oh, no, I definitely don't want to be that.
I definitely don't want to work for Hitler.
Right.
It's like the propaganda.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
it's wild though.
In other, I don't know how we got there.
I don't know how we started.
I don't know how we did that.
World War II Disney cartoons, but
here we are. For those of you in the chat who might not know what we're going to be doing here, basically, towards the end of the interview here, but it's more of a conversation. We're basically talking to a bunch of my friends. A lot of my friends are known for particular things, even if they might not particularly be doing the thing all the time, because all my friends are not freaks, right? However, they are known for a particular thing. So in this conversation, we will be talking to RogersBase about anything under the sun other than the thing that he is known for, which would be his incredible anime content. But I would like to talk real quick before we get into some some things that maybe not a lot of people know about you is kind of what you think about the current just overall space, of YouTube, because as we all know, the YouTube space in general is not only highly competitive, but it's also homogenized to the wazoo. There's a lot of the same content out there, and you have been doing high quality content that a lot of people do similar formats of. They just obviously don't do it as well as you. So
that's very kind. Thank you.
How would you? No, it's facts. What do you how do you feel about the general state of reaction based or any type of that content when it pertains to kind of the realm that you and I live in, which is kind of like the, video game / anime, what we would consider the nerddom category. That's not like sports or anything like that. Like, how do you think it is right now?
I mean, it's weird, right? Because I think, one, you absolutely have to sanitize how you feel about certain shows. Like, for example, even within my own fandom, right? I'm known for being like One Piece and Attack on Titan and stuff. Right. But if I dislike a One Piece chapter, if I just say a One Piece chapter is mid, I get death threats. Literally. I've had people hack my Twitter account. I get death threats. I get people purposely spoiling me on the next chapter. I mean, it's horrible. And it's at a point where like 3 years ago, people were actively looking for like critical analysis of manga chapters. And now it's not really at that. Now it's at a point where like people just want to hear why the thing that they like is good. Right. And that's about it. And I think that's the stuff that really performs well on YouTube nowadays. It's like, I feel like if you look at the channels that are really succeeding in the anime sphere, and again, I don't want to talk about anime too much because the whole point of this is to not talk about anime. Right. But I think if you look at what is performing well, it's either the content that absolutely just feeds into like the degeneracy of it all, right? Yeah. It's like the Nux Takus and stuff like that, which like I like Nux, but he knows what he's doing. Correct. He knows what he's appealing to.
That's correct.
And that obviously like does very well. And then there's the other side of stuff that, like I said, is just like spewing out why you love the thing that you like and cranking it out consistently and frequently, right? Like I think a really good example of this is Grand Line Review. He's somebody who primarily does One Piece content and has blown up in the last year, where he just cranks out like 4 or 5 videos a week that aren't opinion pieces at all, which normally used to do well, right? Now, opinion pieces don't do well. He's cranking out like top 5 things you need to know about Robin, top 5 things you need to know about Luffy, the secret about this devil fruit you never knew before. And like, for me personally, that is not fun. Like I would literally rather not do YouTube than do either of those types of content, which is why I've sort of carved out my niche in doing the reactionary kind of stuff. But in terms of like reaction content, I feel like, I don't know, we're at a space where people are learning copyright law, it feels like, and people are learning like what they can and can't get away with, right? You had like Pokemon just the other day getting like banned off Twitch for watching Avatar or something without a filter. And I feel like people are starting to learn like, oh, you need to have a filter. You can't use the audio. There's like all these there's a whole meta to it that I think people are now discovering that like 3 years ago, people didn't know because there weren't that many creators that were doing it. Yeah. Where now there's like a plethora of us, right? There's tons of people that are doing it. On a wide range of different shows. And so there is sort of like a metagame to it all of knowing what you can and can't show. And it's irrelevant of like whatever show you're watching. But when it comes down to the specifics, I feel like within the One Piece sphere, the stuff again that does well is just like cranking out top 10s or top 5s about your favorite stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of the content that I was seeing in the last 6 months was, and as a lot of people know, I actively am just like, I enjoy things. I look at One Piece and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I actively am good. Like I'm good. And and sometimes I'll talk to Peso Pete about it, and he'll tell me things that happened in the last episode, and he'll just show me a picture, and I'll be like, that's hilarious. With no context, I'll just be like, that's a funny picture. But like,
to be fair, I mean, like I hosted a Wano watch party with Funimation. This was a couple months ago, and this was like a big official thing with Funimation. And so my parents were like, oh, we'll tune in, because obviously they don't watch all my like anime content, but they were like, we want to see this professional thing you're in. And this live show that I hosted basically showed episode 998 and 999, and we're in the midst of like a really battle heavy portion of the story right now. And my parents were watching it, and they were literally like, I felt like I was having a seizure 5 times while watching this episode. Like, I have no idea what's going on. There's like no coherent plot whatsoever. Nope. You're just thrown right into it. And I mean, I'm used to it because I do it weekly, but it's definitely something that I feel like you can't just recommend to a friend like, hey, get into this thing in One Piece. It'll look cool. You know, it's like there's a lot of baggage that comes with it. So I totally understand.
A lot of the content that I'm seeing doing really well, just to kind of, again, really focus on the fact that in the YouTube sphere is like people's blind watch throughs, people's blind I've never seen Bleach. This is me reacting to Bleach. I've never seen One Piece. This is me, because I think that a lot of that is great in it's great, but also like my issue with a lot of the content that a lot of people make on YouTube when it comes to not only anime but games, movies, is that a lot of it is high volume, low creativity. Like you happen to not have watched this thing. Like I've never seen a Star Wars movie. Like I've seen like one, and I don't even remember which one. Yeah, I don't. As of last year, I finally watched the Harry Potter movies.
Wow.
Right? Like,
dude, you should have watched Star Wars before Harry Potter. I mean, like...
probably, but I can just go on YouTube and be like, my reaction to seeing, The Phantom Menace or blah 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 blah. But that doesn't creatively, for me, that doesn't really crank that switch. Do you find that when you're creating content, because I think a lot of people who try to create content need to understand, do you find that there's a correlation between your creative, boxes being checked and the quality of your content?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. If I wasn't happy with what I was producing, I definitely wouldn't be putting it out. Right. Like, I think it's interesting you brought up that blind reaction series, because that was what I did for Naruto last year. And the thing that I talked to my editor about when we were sort of putting the whole thing together was like, I don't just want this to be a mashup of reactions of key moments. Like, I want to make it fun. So we recorded like these little, like, what do they call the mid-credit things? Like there's a specific name for them.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Break? Yeah. Right. So we like recorded little segments called "Is Your Milk Expired?" where I'd give like trivia segments about Naruto, or we'd record little like previews and intros and like ending things and previews for next week in the very beginning of the video and the end of the video that made it seem like, oh, we're watching this reaction series on Toonami or something, right? I had like I had a ranking thing that happened at the end of every one of those reaction recaps, and so it became more of like a weekly event than it was just like me churning out like a reaction and throwing it up there. And of course, like I'll do that every once in a while for stuff, but when it comes to like those really big watch through reaction series, I try to go out of my way to make it more interesting than just like a bunch of spliced up reactions,
right?
Or like just uploading my full VOD where I'm watching it and the full timer's on there and it's the entire episode. Because I'm like, I understand people like that kind of content, but like me personally, I'm never going to sit, even if it's tabbed out, and watch somebody watch a show in entirety and then comment on like maybe 10 minutes of the entire episode. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, no, eye catchers. Thank you very much, chat. By the way, eye catcher is the word I was looking for. Yeah. The little thing that goes in between during the commercial breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a thing about a lot of shows that I actually like. I'll note that as like a positive, be like, oh, I like this show because it does this thing in the middle, right, where it's like, oh, it's like a little animatic, or it's like a little like
Attack on Titan does it, right? Like they have the little explanation about the world and something else that you're figuring out about. And so that's the kind of thing I like doing to sort of like diversify it and make it feel fresh and fun. But of course, like I upload my regular reactions too. And if you're on Twitch, you can watch the full thing. But if I'm uploading it to my channel, like I want to polish it up and make it look nice, you know?
Yeah, some of my favorite kind of, and again, I find that a lot of the content that I watch, which is why I really enjoy, content creators like Critical Role is fantastic at this, where they like, I enjoy watching the effort to create content and be creative. Like for me, like to turn like what you do, what a lot of people do, is they take something that is a proven formula and they go, that's not enough. I can't just do this. And it has I find with very successful content creators, it has nothing to do with whether or not the video or the media or whatever will do well or not. This is not enough to literally satiate whatever node is going off in my brain. I need to do more. Like otherwise I won't put it out. I won't put it out.
Totally. I mean, that's a big reason why I stopped doing as much One Piece content for a long time, right? Because I was turning my brain off and I was like, okay, here's my reaction to the chapter. Here's my review of the chapter. I'm flooding my channel with these things because there's 2 separate videos each Sunday. It was just like both videos in one day. It wasn't just like 2 spread out across the week. And it was like I just was turning my brain off. I didn't have that viewer interaction with the chat where like I could ask questions about things. Like, because even though I do One Piece every week, it's the kind of thing where I'm still going to forget stuff. And I know there's people in my chat who are freaks who know everything, where I can just refer to them.
Correct.
And I just enjoy that format, which is why I sort of switched over to it. And that's why I no longer do like standalone, just a reaction to a manga, or standalone, just doing like a review of the chapter. I do it all as part of like an hour-long stream every Sunday. That's almost like church for my followers, right? Like we wake up, we read the chapter for the first 15 minutes, then I sort of give my initial thoughts as a review, then we break it down and we talk about theories and predictions for the next chapter and going over like other topics throughout the week regarding One Piece. And then it comes out out to like this really nice, solid hours worth of content that covers every base, where then people are satiated until that next week when I churn out the next one and turn on the stream again to do a One Piece stream, where people can like go back to it and break down little things, and it's not just me regurgitating the same talking points that they've heard from other people.
Right. And I think, again, it's this thing where a lot of like really great, like if you listen to interviews with great athletes or something like that, like a lot of the greats at whatever they do, they're a little bit crazy. Like you have to be somewhat obsessive. You have to be somewhat neurotic. You have to be somewhat like anal retentive and like OCD to like be able to put out high quality. You have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed.
Yes.
There's no,
you got to be on 24/7.
Yeah. There's no other way around it. So I think again, with YouTube the way it is, I think I'm interested to see the evolution of content as it's known, considering that obviously, you much more than me, but we're both surrounded by people who we know, like as people, but are content creators, and to kind of see how everybody kind of evolves around that.
I mean, I can only speak for me personally, but I can also, I could speak for Shofu on this end too. I know this. Obviously, it's almost like we're all on a show together every 2 weeks, but like, I know for him, it very much became like a content cycle of streaming on Twitch and then making the content on YouTube out of the best moments that were on Twitch, right? Yeah. While also still doing the stuff that really helps him creatively, right? The stuff that he loves to do, which is his music, and still having that thing where he's giving something to his YouTube audience. And so like, for me, it sort of has evolved into that over the course of the past year, where I'm streaming on Twitch a lot more, and people can go and watch the full streams and see my thoughts on like every little thing. But the stuff that you're getting on YouTube is like the absolute best of what's on Twitch now, and I'm able to cultivate it in a way where like people who then watch my channel are used to this type of like edited or really engaging like long form content, because that's what I like to make and that's what I like to listen to. I mean, like surprise chat, but like I don't watch a lot of anime YouTubers. I just don't. Like the people I primarily watch, the two big channels I watch regularly is I watch Double Toasted, which is like a movie channel. Basically they do like movie reviews and like reactions to trailers and things, but all their stuff is very long form, like 40 minutes to 50 minutes. And then I listen to podcasts, right? So like H3 is one that I regularly listen to, and I don't always agree with it, but like it's fun to just have it out of the background and see all the different aspects of production that go into it. And that's the kind of stuff I watch. I don't know, like, and so I want to make things that I enjoy watching. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of don't realize that because it seems kind of counterintuitive. Like when I was really in it, when I was really in the shits for commentary, I can guarantee, I'll tell you, this includes me, most commentators don't listen to other commentators who do it for real. They don't. Right. They literally don't. Most commentators I know personally actively tell me they watch most streams muted. Like it has nothing. It's like that's a like Roger knows a lot of people that I do, and like that 100% tracks. Like that 100% tracks. Like most I know a lot of like unless you're specifically researching a thing for like, let's say if you're a competitive Pokemon player, not now because it doesn't really exist now, but like most competitive Pokemon players aren't watching like PokeTubers, like they're just not, like, because
of course not.
You know what I mean? So it's it's an interesting like kind of thing where it's like, unless you're doing it for a specific reason, casually, like in your everyday life, like you're not listening to like, I don't listen to any of my friends' music when I'm not streaming. Right. Like I listen to it on stream because I can play it on stream. Like it's a counterintuitive thing that a lot of people just like, oh, I guess I never really thought about it. Roger, who's the best Scion?
Who's the best Scion? Oh, Minfilia, all day, every day, of course. All right, cool. All right. And I gotta say, hold on, I will say where I am in the game right now, because I just streamed it on Tuesday. I just battled Bismarck, the giant like white whale. Just battled Bismarck, and the Emperor showed up, and that's where I left off. So that's where I left. Holy shit, though, at Hoshfont or whatever, dying. Never saw that coming in a million years. Didn't think that was gonna happen. Nanamo being alive too was a huge like WTF moment. I was blown away by that. having it be, finding out that Lolo actually wasn't super evil and he's just kind of in it for the business of it all.
Yes, yeah, like, that every Lalafell is only about the bag. It is a thing that you will only that Final Fantasy 14 just shows you. Lalafells are all about the bag. Every single one of them.
Every one of them. Yeah, there's maybe like 3 that I like.
Yeah,
I like Pippin. I like Totoro, and I like Nanamo.
Yeah, everybody likes Totoro. Everybody likes Totoro.
Of course, Totoro's great. You're a little secretary, of course.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
She's great. Well, a thing that not a lot of people might not know is kind of where you grew up, Roger. I mean, obviously I know that, but like a lot of people just don't know kind of how was it growing up for little RogersBase?
I mean, it was great. I was the only child. I grew up in Chicago. I mean, both my parents were around and very loving and supportive. I don't really have like childhood traumas, thankfully.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't know.
You grew up in Chirac?
Well, okay, Homewood is a suburb of Chicago, so it's not really like,
I want this, but as a quote from this interview, Roger grew up in Chirac. That is a quote from this interview.
But I mean, I loved it, right? Like I really did. I had a very happy childhood and played a lot of video games, and I mean, sort of became who I am today because of those experiences. But no, it was great. I mean, I love thinking about my childhood. I go back all the time. I love visiting my family. It's just fun. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people
in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of it, Roger. That pizza. Can we talk about that pizza real quick?
Yeah, we'll talk about the deep dish.
Of course you do. Let's go. Of course you do. No, we're done.
Here's the thing. No. So I say this as somebody who's had this pizza debate numerous times and is just honestly sick and tired of it.
Yes, of course.
Deep dish pizza is not pizza.
Correct.
It's not.
That is
deep
the only
dish pizza is like a casserole, basically.
Yes.
If you are going into it knowing that, it's bomb. And I personally would prefer to eat a really good deep dish pizza over eating like a good regular standard, flatbread whatever pizza. I would always prefer that. So when I say I prefer deep dish, Chicago deep dish to New York pizza, it's not saying that I dislike New York style pizza. It's saying that I prefer to eat deep dish style pizza more.
Yes,
that's it.
Correct. Because you are not a freak and can.
Right, they're not comparable.
Yes,
it literally is like comparing apples and oranges. Yes. They are different fruits.
Yes. Would you like a hamburger or would you like a steak? They're both beef. That's not a thing that exists.
Right.
No one would ever be like, you want this prime rib or you want this double-decker cheeseburger? And I'm like,
right.
I guess they're not the same thing, even though they're both beef. Another thing that I really wanted to talk about very, very briefly is, a lot of people, especially, as someone who was teaching fairly recently before COVID, a lot of people, especially, who are younger, who skew younger, I would say, let's say born after, 2004, 2005, which I refuse to believe that people were born because it just seems way too people aren't born after 2000. Like that's not a thing that exists.
No, you have to remember 9/11. I mean,
yes,
everybody remembers
literally,
9/11, of course.
Literally, no babies were born after that. Like
everyone was alive for that.
Everybody on Earth remembers that, and then everybody afterwards just doesn't exist.
Right.
So. You being a content creator now, I'm sure a lot of people just see, RogersBase, they see other individuals who are in a similar space and think, wow, like they are just there, they just always have been there. But, people who have been following you, who know you personally, know that it was not, like most successes overnight. It was not.
No.
So before we get into kind of that journey, what is the worst job that you've ever had?
Oh, I'm frame one. I know this right away. Yes. I worked at an Armani exchange, and it was the worst thing on earth. And I swear to God, I would never, ever in a million years, ever want to work retail ever again. To anyone who does work retail, I salute you. I think you are stronger than I. And it was just awful. I worked at 2 different locations, too. So I worked at one when I was in college. That was downtown, and that one was fine, but I had a manager that stole sales from me, and I almost got in a fight, which is surprising. You wouldn't think that I'm somebody who would get in a fight, but I almost got in a fight with one of my coworkers. It was not fun. For example, one time the entire Chinese basketball team, the entire team came into our store. Bought about
Wait,
$3,000.
wait.
Yes.
The entire Chinese basketball
The
team?
entire national Chinese basketball team competing in the
Chinese
Olympics
basketball.
came into our local Armani Exchange in downtown Chicago off Michigan Mile, purchased about $3,000 worth of things, and my manager said, yo, you've really been working with them for a couple hours, like feel free to go take your lunch break now, we're good, I'll make sure to ring it up and you'll get your commission. I was like, thank you so much, greatly appreciate that, thanks a bunch. And ended up coming back from my lunch break, and then you could go into the system obviously and like track your commission for the day, and I'm all excited thinking I'm gonna have like thousands of dollars worth of commission, and I look and my commission's not in there, and my manager straight up was just like, oh, I submitted your sales. And I was like, yeah, but my commissions aren't on here. She's like, well, I checked them out, so obviously I put it under my name. And I just about lost it. I mean, it was brutal. But I knew that 3 weeks later, the head of our entire like region was going to be coming in asking us for opinions on things, and I just ratted out my manager, and she never knew that I was one that ratted her out, and she got fired by our regional head, and I ended up seeing my old manager working at Burberry downtown across the street about like 3 months later, and I had a whole conversation with her, and she was like, I was like, oh, why are you working at Burberry? And she said, I don't know, somebody just reported that I stole all their sales at Armani, and it was just terrible. And I'm like, who would do such a thing? Honestly, who would do such a thing? I can't believe someone would do that. And she never knew it was me.
I can imagine Roger has his hands on his hips. I can't believe somebody would do that.
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked because, again, at the time I had nothing to lose because I was somebody who was like seasonal, right? I was doing it over the course of like the Christmas season, so I had nothing to lose afterwards when the regional manager came in, and I was like, hey, by the way, my manager's a bitch and steals my sales, so just thought you should know.
Yes, that is a clap it up. That is a clap it up moment for sure. That's
But that was absolutely my worst job for sure. And then because then I worked again at Armani Exchange a year and a half later. So this was like my gap year between after I had graduated college before I moved to LA, and I was just sort of saving up money before I was coming over here, and I was applying for a bunch of different jobs internally at Nintendo. And so I just needed to make some quick money. So I worked at Armani Exchange again, and this was in like my local mall, and it was a better experience. Everybody I worked with at the mall Armani Exchange was nicer, but the caliber of people shopping was like way worse.
Yes.
Where you had just like these deviants coming in and like taking all of the like the really gaudy like logo tees. That was absolutely the best thing that sold at the local mall one.
Yes.
Versus like the stuff that sold off the Michigan Mile were like the really nice blazers, and you could match outfits for people and stuff. So
no,
yeah,
I need my logo tees.
But the people were nicer at the very least. Like even though their taste wasn't as good, the people were all nicer. And so specifically the worst job was the one that I worked that was downtown. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Of course. Well, you survived. You survived that. And then how do we get from getting gypped out of thousands of dollars by some idiot to now your job is to read and watch One Piece and then talk about it into a microphone?
Yeah, it's a wild story. I actually don't know if you actually know this entire story. I'm sure Shofu's relayed like bits and pieces of it to you, but I don't think I've ever even really talked about this on a Japan Time before. So where do I begin? So when I was in college, and there's articles about this, you can search this up. My sophomore year in college, I was writing for a website called Gaming Vice, which was like an FGC website. And at the time, I was going to school for theater and English, and I thought I was going to be a theater teacher. But I obviously really liked video games, so I needed like a creative outlet to sort of, talk about them. Right. So that's how I started working for this website. And because of the website, I was able to go to E3. So during my first major E3, Nintendo announced Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box, which is the sequel to like the original Professor Layton game that was on DS that I was a huge fan of. And they announced it in a press release after their press conference, which I also attended. And I thought it was really weird that they left Professor Layton out of the press conference because I thought it was a really good game. So I created a Twitter account, and mind you, this is like the early days of Twitter. I created a Twitter account called Top Hat Professor, where I would tweet out riddles from the game as Professor Layton, and basically I marketed it online as if this was something that Nintendo was doing. And it got picked up by a bunch of online news websites. It got picked up by like Kotaku. It was talked about on like 1UP at the time. It was huge. And again, at the time, like Twitter wasn't what it was today. So like if you had 3,000 followers on Twitter, you were popping off on Twitter back then. Lot. So like everybody was talking about this Professor Layton account, and all of a sudden one day I get a cease and desist from Nintendo saying you have to shut this down because people think this is real. So I announced like, hey, I'm the one behind it. My name's Roger DeLuigi. I go by RogersBase. If you want to follow me, you could follow me here. And I got banned off of NeoGAF, which is like where I was posting about the Twitter account being like, hey, you should go check this out. And people got really mad, banned me. And then all these news websites started interviewing me. So jump to the next E3. I'm talking with staff, which you may actually know from Nintendo. Shout out to JC Rodrigo. Who was basically like, hey, you know what? We really think you would be awesome working at Nintendo. Like, do you have any ideas of what you're going to do after college? And I'm like, you know, honestly, I want to be a theater teacher, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, well, I know there's like these regional product demonstrator jobs that open up. Like, you should apply for it right after you graduate. You should apply for it. So I'm like, sure. So I apply for the job. I get it right away. And I work as a product demonstrator for Nintendo right out of college. And I'm a product demonstrator from that fall through the spring. So like throughout the entire holiday season and then going into like the beginning of Q2.
Yes. Peak time.
Right. So my contract ends, but they really loved working with me. And I sort of got in touch with somebody who was in the hiring process of Nintendo in Seattle. And they were like, we really think you would be great for this product demonstrator position that's internal, right? We think you'd be good for this. You'd be someone who's like a product marketing manager. You'd be, you know, going to these different events, talking about the games during press conferences, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that sounds right up my alley. I would love this. I apply. I get through the first interview process. I then get through the second interview process, and I have an interview with the one and only Mr. Bill Trinan. So I talked to Bill Trinan. I'm in this final interview for this position.
This is like
in Seattle.
This is like pre everyone knowing who Bill Trinan is.
YouTube everything. Yeah. Right, exactly. Right. And Bill interviews me and basically is like, we think you would be great for this. However, what the hiring manager didn't tell you is that you need to be fluent in Japanese for this position. So I'm like, okay, man, I'm not fluent in Japanese. Like, I wish I would have known that beforehand. Like, but it is what it is. You know, if there's ever another opportunity, let me know. And he's like, I'm going to be real with you, Roger. We don't, at the time, at least, I don't know if this is still the thing, but he was like, at the time, you know, we don't really hire remote. You have to kind of already be in Seattle to have a good chance of actually, you know, getting a job here. So I was like, all right, well, I got to save up some money. I got to do something so I could move over to the West Coast so that I can get a job at Nintendo. So I'm applying for all these different positions at a bunch of different companies. And one of those companies happened to be the now defunct Disney Interactive.
Yep.
So I apply for a position at Disney Interactive and don't hear anything back. That summer, we create Japan Time. So me, Ricky, Shofu, the original cast, you know, Zeph, all of us, we create Japan Time. We do it weekly. We're talking about Smash 4. And I noticed, you know, Shofu's really popping off on YouTube. I'm watching these other YouTube creators. And I'm like, I think this is something that I could do. So I upload a cover of me singing Let It Go from Frozen to YouTube. And the video at the time exploded. It was like posted on playbill.com. It got posted to like all these other like Broadway websites saying like the top covers of Let It Go that you should listen to. And again, at the time, Frozen wasn't what it is today, right?
Correct.
Like Frozen had just come out. Let It Go hadn't become huge yet. And I was like one of the only guys who had done a cover on YouTube. Well, because the cover got posted on all these other websites, Disney reaches back out to me again and says, hey, did you apply for a position within Disney Interactive like months ago? And I'm like, I sure did. And they said, okay, well, we want to hire you now for a contract social position. Would you be interested? Sure. And I was like, absolutely. And that's how I initially got over to Los Angeles. And then at the time, because I was making ad revenue off that Frozen video and doing Pokemon battles and all this other random stuff, I'm like, wow, I could make money on YouTube while also working at Disney. This is going to be great. I can get double the bag. This is fantastic. Yeah. So I kept, you know,
which is another thing. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's just another thing that younger people who have been in the kind of quote unquote video game industry, esports industry a while, where most of people who were in there, unless it was corporate, did not see it as a primary source of income. They saw it as a supplemental source. You do this and you do YouTube. Right. You do this and you do commentary. You do this and you do whatever. So like,
and for me, I was doing contract social media for Disney subsidiaries while also doing YouTube. Right. So, I mean, I still don't know how much of this I can talk about to this day, but basically one of the games that I had been hired to do stuff for got canceled. Right. And the other game that I was doing contract stuff for was Disney Infinity, which also was canceled.
Yes.
And so I was like, out of luck at this point. I had just moved to LA. I was about 2 months into my position, and I really like didn't know what I was going to do. And thankfully, one of my supervisors at the time was like, "We'll hook you up with a contract position through ABC." Because obviously, again, Disney owns everything and they own ABC.
Right.
And so I ended up doing contract social for a show that was called Selfie that was on ABC, which was like a modern retelling of My First Lady, in addition to doing contract social for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the whole, I think it was the second season at the time. So I'm doing all of this while also still doing YouTube. Then shifted my position internally, ended up getting picked up to do something for consumer products for a Frozen toy line. Did that for a little bit. Then moved my contract over to Marvel. I was like helping to lead some of the preview screenings for Ant-Man for a little bit, and like doing, you know, the little surveys that you fill out at preview screeners where it's like, what did you like about the movie? So I was like helping with that team. And then I moved from that team to then go to another team within Lucasfilm, which was like when Force Awakens was coming out. So I was jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know like who I would be working for within Disney at any given time. And my team would constantly be changing, and I was offered multiple positions to like work full-time at the company, but I was getting paid better than a lot of the people that were getting paid full-time. I just didn't have benefits, and it allowed me the freedom to like go into work for 3 hours and then come back home and do YouTube videos. So all this time I'm like cranking out these YouTube videos. I'm doing, you know, I start doing the One Piece reviews, the Attack on Titan reviews, the Akanohana reviews, Once Upon a Time, all this stuff. And then it just sort of erupts that around 2017, the last major project I was doing contract stuff for was Rogue One. And when Rogue One's contract ended, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to quit my job. I think I'm going to quit my job because I'm making more money doing YouTube now than I am at work. And if I go full force into this, I feel like I could probably make even more. So I ended up quitting my job, went full-time into YouTube, and I've been full-time ever since.
And a lot of people, the thing about a lot of those kinds of journeys and a lot of those career paths is that a lot of people underestimate the value of preparation and luck, right?
Oh, yes.
Like,
yes.
You will be the first to admit in a lot of instances, you use the, like, I happen to be, I was, you know, I just happened to be. A lot of it is that you were ready, but also you just happened to be in positions that you were lucky to be the right person at the correct time.
Bro, I totally lucked out with half of those Disney jobs. Had my supervisor not been nice for that very first initial thing that I did with them, I would not have been able to jump around in the way that I did. And obviously it was hugely beneficial to me to eventually do that, because then I would, like, at one point I was working with the Microsoft developer team, and we were doing stuff for Infinity. At another point, I mean, I was like I said, I was running like a toy line thing, and it was wild. And I have tons of like wild stories from when I was working at the Glendale campus for Disney, but I feel like that's probably for a later day. But yeah, essentially the whole major point of it is, YouTube was a side thing for me until it ended up overtaking my revenue, and then I ended up doing it full time. But again, a big part of it for me too, and like this obviously was like, had I not had friends that were already successful on YouTube and doing things on YouTube, I would not have already had that audience, right? Like had we not done Japan Time for 6 months prior to me even starting my YouTube channel, I wouldn't have had any subscribers on my YouTube channel. I would have uploaded that video to nobody, right? Yeah. Like, had I not known Shofu, I wouldn't have known how to upload on YouTube. I mean, and then had we not joined like the Skype groups back in the day, I wouldn't have made the connections that I made then. Like, everything sort of evolves, and you never know what connections you're eventually going to make later on down the line, or like who's going to be beneficial to you, or like, you know, who's going to end up being like a really close friend of yours. And so, yeah, it was wild. And then amidst all the Disney stuff, I'm sure we talked about this on Japan Time too, I was also doing contract work running the social media for Tiltify, which at the time was a startup company that literally had 3 employees, and I was their sole social media employee. And so we did like all of these like different charity campaigns. I did one with Paul Walker's charity. I did that event with like Ahmed Best. And so, yeah, it was like Tiltify with Disney, with Microsoft, with everything, with YouTube, with Japan Time. It was like I was doing so much in such a short amount of time, and those 2 years just to kind of feel like a blur to me, because I was so busy and barely sleeping, but that grind obviously ended up paying off. So
I feel like a lot of people I know in who are even moderately successful, I can be like, hey, what were you doing between like I just pick a set, let's say, what were you doing between 2016 and 2017? They'll be like, bro, I don't know. Like I was just
grinding.
like I was just I could tell you highlights and stuff like that, but I was just going so crazy. It was like it was.
I mean, that was 2014 of 2016 for me, right?
Yeah.
It was like because I moved to LA in June of 2014. And I basically worked it out with Disney where I would start in July and I'd be able to come out like a month before. And so for that first week and a half, I was staying with Shofu. So I came in for E3, brought the stuff that I brought in that initial suitcase. I had like 2 major suitcases, stayed with Shofu like for a week and a half, found my apartment that was in Glendale, moved over here, set everything up. And then my dad actually drove my car out and came with my uncle. And he visited for like a week. So then I finally had my car like a month later. But I mean, for that first month, I was just taking like the company bus to go to the Glendale campus. It was great. So
yeah, I mean, it's crazy because a lot of times when you're around like because you've been to cons, you've been to tournaments, you've been to things like sometimes you'll be at the bar, you'll be in a hotel room, you'll be at a restaurant, and the stories that are swapped in those they're all incredible, right? They're all.
I will tell you right now because he no longer works for Disney, so I don't care. One of the heads of Disney Interactive at the time had the worst potty mouth I've ever heard in my life. Like literally the worst. The things that came out of his mouth, like I would not even feel comfortable saying.
Yes, egregious. Yes.
Like I mean, like truly egregious, wild things. And I happened to be in the office the day that his team got fired from Lucasfilm, and it was a day, let me tell you, because I don't know if you know like the full story of like the behind the scenes of what happened during Rogue One, but basically there was like a mass reshoot for Rogue One.
Yeah.
They had to reshoot a whole bunch of things. There was an early cut of the movie, and Lucasfilm was scrambling. They had to change their social calendars. That's why I was brought in. I was like helping with the contract stuff, basically like tweaking certain things and doing evergreen content. So I was literally in a room at the Glendale campus. I vividly remember this. I was holding the art book that was just like finalized for Rogue One, and I'm scanning in pictures of this now finalized art book to go into evergreen posts that are going to be on Twitter. And I'm doing this as I'm watching people clearing out their desks that were working previously with that Lucasfilm team. And it was a nightmare. I felt so bad for these people because I was contract. Like I knew I was only going to be on that team temporarily. And again, this was like late into my career. So at this point I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to start doing YouTube soon. Like this doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it's just the entire building was on fire. You would not believe it was a Disney office, I'll tell you. Because again, you had the Disney Interactive floor all going off. You had the Lucasfilm people that were working there at the time. You had people in consumer products. The conversations that went in the cafeteria. I mean, it was just like it was a nightmare, man.
Yeah,
it was a nightmare.
I've done a lot of internships for smaller gaming companies as community manager. Mainly was community manager, and like when they have an office, especially when you're younger and obviously you weren't 19 when I was doing that. But no. You start to realize that it doesn't matter what the company is. An office is still an office. And it's still like, I don't care if it's Disney, Pixar, I don't care if they make the softest pillows known to man. It is an office.
Yes.
And one day that office will look like the inside of SpongeBob's brain. When everything is on fire and all the other SpongeBobs.
Dude, totally. Yeah. And again, I happened to be there on multiple days when that would happen, but I was so removed from, like, I didn't even have a company email. I was literally just fully contract, hired out independently to write out editorial calendars or to work on whatever they needed me to work on at the time. And I was just sort of like watching all of this from the sidelines unfold. But I mean, even some of the meetings I was in on, like at one point I was helping to run the social media account for Microsoft Developer. And this was when I was working at one of the other marketing firms that was here in LA that Disney had worked with. And I was on this marketing call with this Microsoft team, and they were so unbelievably rude to the agency. I mean, they were like, again, saying the nastiest, like worst things possible, like things you could not get away with in 2020. At the time, this would have been 2016, right? But like no, it would have been 2015, excuse me.
The Wild West.
But like, Yeah, exactly. But like 3 years later, bro, there's no way they would have been able to say any of this stuff. And so I literally was on a phone call with them one time. I think I've definitely told the story on Japan Time. I'm going to tell it again. I was on a phone call with them, and I was putting together an editorial calendar that needed to be approved on Microsoft's end. And obviously, when you're working for Disney, you're able to utilize, for the most part, different like aspects of Disney properties and put them in social media calendars. You don't really need like the approval of Lucasfilm to put like a Millennium Falcon on something if it's like an evergreen Disney post. And so this post was going to be on the Microsoft developer account, and it was back-end programming versus front-end programming.
Okay.
And the photos were the Disney Castle for front-end programming, like the pristine Disney Cinderella Castle, and the back-end programming was Howl's Moving Castle, like dilapidated, falling apart, looking abysmal, and obviously they owned the rights to the Ghibli films at the time. Right. So I'm like, this would be a really funny evergreen post that developers are going to like. So I have this on my editorial calendar, and the Microsoft guy is like, there's no way you can put this in there. We don't have the rights to this. And I'm like, homie, I work for Disney. Like, we have the rights for this. You're fine. I'm going to upload this. Like, it's going to do great. And he's like, no, you're not. Like, I'm not giving you the approval for that. And he goes off on this tirade, starts swearing. I literally go, have a magical day. And I hang up the phone, publish the thing anyway. He gets the analytics back the next week, sees that it was the best performing post, and then gets back on the call with me the next week and is like, okay, so that post performed well, but don't ever do that ever again. And you know what I proceeded to do for the entirety of the rest of the time I worked at Uptown Treehouse? Damn well did it every single week, and it was the highest performing post.
Of course. And of course, you are. Of course, the crazy. Right. I want all of my. I have a lot of. You know, when you get on the internet, you get people with different stages of life, right? A lot, and I feel like, and you can disagree or agree with this, but I feel like the age range in which you are. How old are you, Roger?
Me, I'm 30. I'm gonna be 32. Oh my god, next month.
Yeah, so
32.
Like,
next
you're
month.
32. Like
wow.
I'm gonna be 29 this year. Like we're late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
We're essentially the same age, right?
Yeah.
But on the internet, we might as well be 45. Like like in terms of
I'm
like
an old man,
right,
sure.
like in terms of like our somebody who's on the internet now who is like 22, 90% of their life is around internet etiquette and internet communication, where they don't have that real life experience that you got working in like shitty places, like and getting your stuff stolen when you were 18.
Professional places,
yeah,
like, mind you, I was telling these crazy stories about Disney, but like I loved working with them. Right. It wasn't like that wasn't a bad experience.
No, for sure. But like you only get that. And because we have the, ability to, we grew up in the late 80s and the 90s where the only experience that you got was you doing the thing, right? You had to do the thing. And the moment that everyone has this at some point, hopefully, where you understand when you are working that you are good at your job. Yes. And no one can convince you otherwise. You are good at your job. Even if your boss is like, don't do that, and that you're going to do it anyway. But a lot of people, you only get that by doing the thing. You don't get that by...
But that's also, I mean, to be fair, I don't think I would have ever taken that risk, specifically with developer, if I wasn't so close at that point in my career where I knew I was going to be YouTube and it wasn't going to be something for long, or that I knew I could fall back like, okay, if I'm not doing the developer account, I could jump back onto like the Lucasfilm account or something, right? Like I had backups, and I feel like, if you don't have a backup, it's much scarier to take that risk.
Correct.
But I mean, the amount of people that were working on the Microsoft teams, for example, who were there for years, right? Who were in their 50s, were just as scared as the people that were in their 20s that didn't know anything of losing their jobs, because at any moment, right, the team or the project you're working on could get folded. I mentioned at the beginning of this, but like one of the two major projects that I was brought in to work on, like in the Disney Infinity area of my life, right, the Disney Interactive era, was a project that never came to fruition, that was a fighting game that just straight up died. And the whole team that was doing stuff on it, like, I don't know what they're working on. I don't know if they're still within Disney. I don't know if their contract, I don't know who knows what. I don't know if people know about the game. It's like, it was a wild time, man. It was wild. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, now it is 2022 where my desk is made out of wood. I'm going to knock on it. We are reaching the tail end of a weird just time in human history, especially in like from a cultural standpoint. Like nobody got nuked, but like it feels like people got nuked, like just like emotionally, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like everybody is just so. I'm curious, as you know, we spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the come up and where you're at and kind of where you're at now, and obviously you're really, really successful, and I want to get into like a couple of the questions as well, real quick. But where do you see?
I got to come on your more often. This is nice.
Yeah,
really successful, quality content. I'm like, wow, I'm not used to this.
Well, no, I mean, no, because like it's a true thing, and I think that
I appreciate it.
And I think I'm always like, you know, we always talk shit, we always roast each other, but I'm a big believer of giving people flowers while they're here. Like you have to, because you know, because things like with Omar happening the other day, he got picked, his beat got picked for NBA Youngboy, and he's in. That's amazing. Shouts to Omar. But where do you see kind of your brand content kind of going in the next year or 2 years or so? Because obviously
that is so funny that you are bringing this up now, because I had this exact discussion with Ricky yesterday.
Yeah,
literally yesterday. Wow. So it's funny. You know, there's a lot of people who are my mutuals, right, and my peers that do One Piece content, who are actively scared and get vehemently upset when you bring up what Oda and his editors have been saying for years now, which is that following the conclusion of the current story arc in Wano Country, there's about 5 years left of One Piece. There's about 5 years left, and when you look at the trajectory of how they've been releasing,
that's a crazy
chapters,
sentence, by the way.
How many?
That's a crazy sentence. That's a crazy sentence. Yeah, after this thing,
5 years.
Yeah, after this thing that's been going on forever, you know, we're hitting the end, so we got about like 5 years. Like that's insane. Exactly. That's an insane sentence.
Right. It's 5 years. It's still a really long time, right? And so, but whenever you bring that up, people are like, no, there's got to be way more than that. Like, there's no way he's going to wrap up all the storylines in One Piece. There's no way there's no way he's going to be able to do it. And I've mentioned this numerous times on stream. I cannot wait. Like, I am actively so excited for One Piece to end. Because one, I'm excited to see what's going to happen within the story that I've been following for so many years. But two, to not just be pigeonholed into doing that content. Because, and I mean, you can pull this up on stream if you want to, Tito, but like, so many people consider me a One Piece YouTuber. And I'm like, I'm really not anymore. I do one One Piece video a week, and the majority of my content that really blows up is not One Piece related. It's Nintendo related. It's manga related. It's like I'll do a song. It's stuff that isn't One Piece. One Piece is the bread and butter. One Piece is like the 40,000, 50,000 views I can count on every weekend, right? Whenever there's a new chapter. But like the other stuff that blows up, that does well, is not One Piece. And people, I don't know if it's because they've been watching me for so long or they've only watched me for that, haven't realized that I've been shifting away from that literally for 3 years already. Like all the most popular videos the past 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 of them were One Piece related videos. And those One Piece related videos were either collabs with other creators or were like interviews with other creators. They were not like single chapter reviews anymore. So on that angle, it's like, I feel like I can keep doing what I'm doing right now, like the, you know, direct reactions, live streams, all this stuff, slowly but surely, you know, getting my my viewers into other content, right, while still covering One Piece, doing my one stream a week until One Piece ends. Now, when One Piece ends, my ideal, which is what I'm already doing anyway, and it's the content that succeeds, is to go full on into more long form type content. Like, I don't see myself even in 10 years being off YouTube at this point. Like, I think I've amassed a platform there. I like it. I like my audience. I think the anime fans that are following me for One Piece, I think there's a lot of One Piece YouTubers that are worried they're going to lose those fans when One Piece ends. But realistically, I think a lot of those fans, and you can kind of tell already, are growing out of it already. They're kind of growing out of One Piece. They're kind of growing out of like covering every single anime and talking about every single anime. And they want to talk about other things. They want to talk about entertainment. They want to talk about movies. They want to talk about music. They want to talk about games, whatever. And thankfully, I have a wide breadth of experience, having worked with Disney, having worked at Nintendo, having, you know, done this for so many different years at this point, that I feel like I could kind of cover whatever I want at this point and have the possibility of it blowing up, right? So for me, you know, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing until One Piece ends. And then really after that, it's going to become more of like a long form style, twice a week type show where I cover, whatever trailer reactions people want me to cover, talk about the entertainment industry, news articles that I find interesting, either in the anime industry, gaming, whatever. But I think my content's going to grow up with me, right? Like I'm 32 now. I can't be screaming over a manga chapter forever, nor do I feel myself doing that. I can already feel myself sort of waning out of it. Now, the one thing I will always lose my mind over, I could be 65 and I'm still going to be screaming and crying and slobbering like a mess, is Smash Brothers, right? And there's every 5-6 years, there's going to be a Smash Brothers game too. So that's the nice thing, is like I could just ride these waves, and whenever Nintendo says there's a new Smash game, and to a lesser extent Pokemon, right? It's a Pokemon game every year, and I love Pokemon. I'm one of those blind fans that like I always enjoy what Pokemon brings out. Like I acknowledge there's issues with Pokemon, but like I pretty much like every Pokemon game, And so that works out for me, because then I always have a content cycle to fall back on. We always are going to have Nintendo Directs. We're always going to have new movie trailers to react to, right? Like there's a plethora of different things I could cover that aren't just anime. And I think that's why I'm not scared at all to have One Piece end, and why I'm so excited for my content in the future, because I think it's going to evolve with me. I think, the reaction content that I'm doing now, it's going to stay until it ends. But after that, I feel like I'm doing good. Yeah. Well,
that's the difference, right? Because when I was, I always stress and really emphasize the fact that, it's important to do what you love, right? But you also have to understand that, you aren't what you do. You are, you aren't, you know what I mean? So it's like, you are a good content creator who creates One Piece content, where a lot of other people are One Piece content creators who create content. And there's a huge big difference. There's a huge difference, because those people might not have the skills or the confidence in most cases to create other content that isn't One Piece content. Where you are a content creator who just also happens to create One Piece content. So it's...
But I think it also helps too that like I can look at the numbers. I could see in my analytics like what does well and what brings me growth now. And like seeing that it's not the One Piece stuff is the thing that makes me go, oh God, okay, good. I'm doing the right thing right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, whenever I see view spike, like I've always sort of been on a consistent growth upward trend on YouTube. I've never really like dipped, but it's been slow. My sub growth is much slower than somebody who'll like blow up because of a specific topic. But I don't mind. I don't mind if it's slow, and I don't mind if I have these little bursts of people following me, because if they're following me because they enjoyed something that I was putting out, and not necessarily the exact type of content that they're looking for, not just, One Piece related stuff. So like a really good example of this is just the other day I was looking at my analytics of like the past 3 months and what brought in the most subscribers. And the stuff that brought in the most growth for me obviously was the Nintendo Direct, no doubt about it. The Pokemon playthroughs, all the lead up to like Arceus was a big one. And then weirdly enough, you would not think this would be the case, but like my long form interview type stuff with other creators on the platform, that stuff was all doing really, really well. And then I even did like a travel video from last year that then ended up blowing up and doing really well too. So yeah, it's like with the Smash reactions and Nintendo Direct stuff and all this other stuff actually bringing in the growth, and like me seeing it confirmed in the numbers, that's I think the thing that doesn't scare me, where I'm like, I think a lot of people are unsure of if they're going to grow after One Piece ends. And I'm like, well, it's going to be the same for me. It's going to be like nothing changed. I had growth when I was doing Naruto. Now I'm not doing Naruto. Those fans didn't go anywhere. I had growth when I did a blind reaction watch through to Hunter x Hunter. Those Hunter x Hunter fans didn't go anywhere. Yeah. And now at any point, I can upload a Hunter x Hunter video. I could upload a Naruto video, and it's going to do numbers. And I don't have to worry about it, because that fan base is there craving that content, knowing one day I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, one day you're going to do it again. And I think that's... Yeah. You're just adding things to your toolbox. Before we go, we are reaching the hour point. I don't want to keep you, and I appreciate the hour that you shared with us. And we
didn't even do a Q&A yet.
We're gonna do them real quick. We're gonna go ahead and head over to Twitter real quick, and then give people in the chat the opportunity to go ahead and post anything. You don't have to add anybody. We got mods. Just go ahead and post whatever question you want. Swave, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but maybe I don't know if you want to cover it again, but Swave asks, when considering topics for your YouTube and other content forums, what's the process that you go through to develop and create those ideas? Or do you just kind of be like, I want to do this, and you gotta like go from there?
I think the stuff that always does really well, and the stuff that like I'm confident in is the stuff that I'm just passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a Nintendo Direct, I'm like, well, I'm live reacting to it, and I'm going to milk it. I'm going to cut up those reactions and do my live VOD and do videos about the topic and do a prediction thing. There's kind of like a content cycle wave to it. So I think that's a big part of it. It's just like the core stuff that I've always liked. I'm always going to do just because I like it. But in terms of like new content, I mean, I have Google Trends constantly that are open. I have like Google Trends for various anime, various manga, various manhwa, and if I see something really sort of ticking up, I go, okay, now's the perfect opportunity to do it. So like last week, I did a follow-a-thon here on Twitch for Demon Slayer because season 2 had just ended, and I knew that I had an open week. I'm like, now's the perfect opportunity to do it. People are still talking about Demon Slayer. This is a great time to jump on it before people forget about it. I'll do my full, bingeable reaction to it. I'll crank out some reaction recap content for it if I so choose, and then I'll get like all these new followers while still sort of riding the wave of Demon Slayer. So now Demon Slayer's dying down, but like this week coming up, we've got Elden Ring. Now, like, I'm not playing Elden Ring, but I'm still going to be talking about it. I'm still interested in seeing what people are saying about it. I'm going to watch somebody play through it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I want to be aware of the zeitgeist surrounding Elden Ring, so that when I do my stream for Triangle Strategy and people go, Roger, have you played Elden Ring? I go, no, but here's the story beats. Hey, here's this thing about the lore that I know from watching a YouTube video. You know what I mean? It's like you constantly have to be aware of whatever is trending to then throw into your videos to then spice up either your title or get people excited about whatever it is that you're discussing, even if it's not what they came there for.
Yeah, information is definitely
key. Yeah.
Crazy. The other question that we have here, I actually like this question. What dead video game franchise deserves a reboot in your eyes, if you could pick? And are there any mechanics from modern? I'm going to reword this because it was poorly written. And what any new features or mechanics in modern games that you would like to see kind of put into that franchise? So, for example, the person this gave said, "I'd love to see an F-Zero game that kind of blends normal racing and some sort of melee combat, like hopping in and out of the car."
I would love that. We talked about that in Japan time. I think that'd be sick. Oh man, that's tough. I mean, it's funny because I kind of got my dream where my dream reboot was Advance Wars, and we got it. Yeah. So I felt like I'm good with that. If I could be real specific, I mean, I would love some type of reboot or sequel to Chrono Trigger in the HD 2D style, and that the modern mechanic that gets added to it is an affinity chart. I know there's a lot of people that like think affinity charts are controversial, but for me, like, they add so much to when I'm playing an RPG, and they're a big reason why I love Xenoblade. And I think the idea of a Chrono Trigger sequel with an affinity chart style like growth mechanic would be incredible, especially with the 2D HD art style. It'd be done.
All right, and I think we have one more.
Let's hear it. I got time. Come on, throw some questions at me, Chad. Come on.
He's Zender says he's very curious of the backstory for Obi, the dog, and how'd you get him, and would you consider getting any other pets in the future?
Hell no. Am I getting other pets? That's an absolute big no.
That's a correct. That's the correct answer. That's the correct answer.
No, I got one dog. I'm good.
Yes.
Obi's actually funny. So obviously, me and Reagan have been dating for what will be 5 years now, which is wild.
Clap it up, chat.
5 years in May. That's gonna be crazy. And Obi was actually originally her parents' dog. So I first met Obi when we went to go visit her parents for the first time, like about a year in. And we stayed with them for a couple months during like the peak of COVID because it was really bad in LA and her parents are in Vegas. And my parents are freaking out about COVID stuff too. And so we just figured, you know what, it's just good. Let's go stay with her parents for a couple months. They have a pretty nice house. They've got an open room. We're good. Let's just relax here. And we just got really attached to Obi. Like, he was really attached to both me and to Reagan because both of her parents obviously work, and so he is used to just having a big open house and being alone and sad all day. And so the fact that like he had people that were there 24/7, and both of us work remotely. I do YouTube and she does marketing stuff. So it's like we were just always around and always there. So then we went back to our apartment. That was like in October, and her mom came to visit, and basically her grandparents had moved in. Reagan's grandparents had moved in to her parents' house because her grandpa's like struggling with Alzheimer's, and so they needed to, constantly have care. And Obi, he's like a spry, happy, young little dog, and he's constantly barking and stuff. And they're home all day, but her parents go to work, right? So her grandparents would then have to deal with this little yipping dog all day, and they didn't want to do that. And so we figured, well, you know what, we'll hold him for a couple months and see if we like him. And we weren't doing anything else. We weren't going anywhere because of COVID. You know, it's fine. So we hold on to him, and then, you know, October rolls around, November rolls around, December rolls around, and then after like 3 months, we just got so attached that we're like, yeah, we're keeping your dog. Like, he's our dog now. and her mom's like, you know what, that's great, because, you know, again, her grandparents didn't want to have the dog around, and it worked out good for us. So even when we got our new apartment, that would have been the beginning of last year. Yeah, I mean, even being here for almost 2 years is wild. But yeah, when we got a new apartment, we have this really nice big balcony, so he's able to run outside. He's got a little pee pad if he still needs to go out and neither of us can walk him. But we've got a nice, you know, big street where he can go on walks, and he's just great. He's a wonderful little dog, and I love him.
Yes.
Happy little Obi.
Yeah, clap it up for the doggo. Always got to clap it up for the doggo.
Yep.
Well, I'll give you the opportunity. I'm sure everyone knows where to find you, Roger, but I appreciate the time. If you want to go ahead and plug any stuff, what is on the docket for the stream? You play? Is it more Heaven's Word? Is it, obviously we got the
yes.
Is there there's a new One Piece chapter this Sunday? So
Yep. So I do primarily Heaven's Word, Final Fantasy, every single Tuesday here on twitch.tv/RogersBase. And every Sunday we do live reactions to whatever anime I'm feeling at the time. So right now it's Ranking of Kings and Attack on Titan. So I'm doing live reactions to those and uploading those to the VOD channel. But on my main channel, on my main YouTube channel, I do live reaction review live streams every Sunday for the latest One Piece chapters. We got a new One Piece chapter coming out. And then even though I'm not covering Elden Ring, starting next week, we're going to be playing on Monday and Tuesday the demo for Triangle Strategy, because I purposely stayed away from it, and then the game comes out on Friday, so I'll be streaming all of Triangle Strategy here on Twitch, and I am so unbelievably excited for it. I'm craving a Final Fantasy Tactics kind of game. So if you're at all interested in Triangle Strategy or Final Fantasy or One Piece or Attack on Titan or Pokemon, look forward to that. Pokemon, speaking of, by the way, actually I don't know if I could talk about it, whatever, it's fine. So on Friday, I actually just got a box today from Pokemon Company that I will be opening on Friday live on stream in honor of Pokemon Day, and I would highly recommend you tune into that live stream. It'll be right here on Twitch. It's going to be a fun Pokemon Day stream. We're going to be playing some Pokemon TCG, and we're going to be opening up the box from Pokemon Company. So look forward to that too.
Didn't get a box and couldn't get a box, and I'm just so angry.
You say the F word, Tito. That's it. You say the F word.
I'm so angry.
That's
You're
it.
right.
They work with the PG-13 streamers. I'm on the cusp, man. Like I take my lucky stars every day.
Okay,
Pokemon
in a PG-13 movie, I get one. I get one in a PG.
To be fair, I get one.
Yes, you also get one.
Right.
You also get one, but
I get two when we're on Japan time. I get one regular.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You're right, Zender. You're right. We have one. We do have one more question. We'll end it on here.
Let's hear it.
As tensions rise between Russia and the Ukraine, how much money is in your bank account, and what is your social security number? That comes from let me see, who is this? Reiki Kokani. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I'm kind of familiar with them. Yeah, Reiki. So Reiki, the number in my bank account is enough, and the number of my social security number is 111-111-111. So yeah.
All right. There you go. Make sure you go ahead and do whatever anybody does with the information. Roger, appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Tito.
We will all reconvene. You guys go ahead, check out Roger, obviously, on all of his stuff. Literally just Google him and he's there. But also it will be Japan time coming up, not next week, but Monday.
No,
it is next week.
Yeah,
it is next week.
I was going to say, this
is next week. Yeah, break week. So Japan time. Appreciate you, Roger. And you stay safe, and I'll be in the streams as always.
Likewise, Tito. Likewise. You stay safe. And yeah, make sure to tune into Japan time, everybody. It should be a good one.
Yeah.
Curiously, before I leave, are you playing Elden Ring?
That is not up to me. That is up to my chat.
That's up to what?
That's up to my chat. That is not up to me.
Chat, are you going to have him play Elden Ring?
I'm currently playing.
I haven't decided what streamer I'm going to watch for it, because I know I'm not playing it.
Okay, so a couple people said yes in my chat. Also, people will come into multiple other streams. So I'm probably going to play a day late to give people who are playing it the chance to get a head start, because that's usually what I have with these kind of games. I just kind of give it a day, so I'm not competing with Ko in the morning and then Max at night.
Of course.
So
sure.
I'll probably play it on Saturday.
So actually, I have one other question for you then. This comes from somebody in my Discord server, Dan, who says, I'm assuming Tito has a crew for getting to Diamond rank in Knockout City. Do you still play Knockout City?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? I've gotten to Diamond solo every time but one in Knockout City, and then I stopped playing because it started getting... The game is really good. The worst part of the game is costing money because nobody plays that game. And the reason why I knew that is because I was in Diamond, or I wasn't even in Diamond. I was about to get into Diamond. I think the rank below that is like Ruby. And I queued 3 times by myself with like 4 to 5 minutes apart. I got the same 2 teammates and the same 3 stack on the other side. And I said, I'm good.
Oh, man. You're done.
I'm good. I'm good, bro. I'm super good. And it's sad because I think that game's really good.
I remember you talking about it, saying how good it was at Japan Time. So
it is really good. It's just that it costs money, and that game should not cost money, which is a crazy thing to say. But like,
but I understand completely. Yeah.
Yes, I was also the only person who played Destruction All-Stars, and that game is fun. But that game also doesn't work, and no one plays it.
You said that, like, man, could you just imagine if Street Fighter 6 was free to play? Like, how much that would blow up? I know we talked about it on Japan Time about Project L, and it's going to explode. And
we're going to talk about it.
But like,
we're going to talk about it, Roger. I think it might be.
I hope it is.
I think it might.
I really hope it is.
And it all dependent. Yes,
I think it would be sick.
Yes, I think it's all dependent on the release date.
Yeah.
If the release date is within 6 months of Project L, it's free to play. It's 100%. It has to be. It has to be.
It's gonna die otherwise, for sure. I agree.
But we'll talk about it.
We'll
and
talk
then,
about it on Japan Time.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Clap it up for Roger one time, chat.
Bye, everybody.
Everybody clap it up for RogersBase. What a great guy, man. What a great guy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you watching this on YouTube, we're going to clap it up one more time for Mr. RogersBase. Go ahead and check him out. He's on the Googles. Literally Google him. He's literally just there on the Googles. So if you Google him, he's good. It's also going to be in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube.